I thought I'd share just a comment and then a question that I got this past weekend. So the first one was from a lady that gave me a comment that was that my van is not a stealth van, in her opinion. And the reason was, so we messaged back and forth a little bit, and the reason was I have a solar panel that you can see quite clearly, and also a vent fan that you can see quite clearly. And so, in her mind, if anybody saw those things, that would tip them off, and they would know that this was a camper van. Now, why that was important to her was that she's a single woman, and so she did have some kind of concerns for her safety. She also had concerns about being able to park and sleep, and she had some concerns about having interactions with police officers. So that was the first one. The second one was a question that is still kind of cracking me up. So that this fellow asked me if I always park in the same area, and if I had a vehicle alarm, and if I use that alarm at night when I was sleeping. So, so my first reaction, of course, was that this guy must have seen me parking someplace, and he's now asking me how easy it is going to be for him to break into my van in the middle of the night. Or maybe he really is concerned about somebody breaking into his van. I don't know if he has a van. He didn't mention that. Maybe he's thinking about getting a van. But anyway, so these kind of questions are really very common, and there seems to be kind of a common theme, and that is that there seems to be this idea that living in a van is somehow inherently more unsafe than living in a traditional home. So I did want to talk about that a little bit. And I think really to make my point about this before I kind of share what I had told at least these two people, is I want to kind of take you back to when I had first decided that I wanted to buy a van. Now, at the time, I had some real trepidation about trading in my car and buying the van. Looking back at it now, I realized that it really was fear. It was kind of fear of the unknown. And, I didn't know anybody that lived in a van. All of my information came off of, mostly YouTube, a little bit on the internet. So it wasn't like I could talk to somebody about it and kind of talk through it. So I had those kind of ideas rolling in my head. So it's actually kind of a wonder that I went ahead and traded in my car and bought the van. What I found, though, was after I bought the van, I kind of ran into a little bit of a wall, in that I started building a little bit here and there. I built a few things, and then I just kind of stopped because I had all these kind of ideas in my head, and my brain just always seems to go to what if. And I really had trouble turning that off. In fact, I had so much trouble turning it off that, like I said, it put kind of a standstill on my building of the van. So it took me about 6 months in total to build the van out. But there were probably 2 full months in that 6-month period of time that I didn't do any work at all on the van. And it was just the fact that I was worried about things, worried about basically just like those comments before, worried about having interactions with police officers, having somebody break into the van. You know, these are really big concerns for me. And I realized that I was going to have to find a way to work around those concerns. So what I did was I came up with a plan. I made a promise to myself that I would live in the van for 4 months. Now, I had to live in the van for 4 months no matter how it went, even if it was the worst decision of my life and it was terrible and I hated every minute of it. I had to stay in the van for 4 months. Now that gave me a little bit of pause, you know, because I was thinking, what if I really didn't like it? You know, what if it really was horrible? You know, I don't know. But it did kind of give me the go-ahead with the building and finish the building out of the van, because I figured, you know, 4 months is not a lot of time, right? I mean, anybody can put up with anything for 4 months. So even if it was really the worst decision of my life, it was only 4 months. I can get an apartment after that and go back to kind of, you know, normal living. So that got me going again and got me building a van again. And, you know, it really, I didn't realize that it was fear necessarily. It was really my roommate at the time that had got me, you know, to realize that all of that trepidation that I was feeling, all of that angst that I was feeling, it really just came down to fear of the unknown. I was getting myself into something that really had no answers. So in my answer to the comment and the question now, you know, I had a lot of fear about finishing the van because I had very definite ideas about what a stealth van would be like. And as I started to do my building, and as the van started to come together, I realized that what I had out in the driveway was not that picture of a stealth van that I had in my head in the beginning. That was a problem for me to work around. But what I think I realized kind of late, basically just a few days before moving into the van, I've kind of had this, I don't know if it was a Zen moment or if I was just so tired that I was done and just had no more energy to worry anymore. I don't know what it was, but I realized that the only way that I was going to make that 4-month promise to myself of staying in the van was the van had to be comfortable. So even though the van didn't turn out to be this great, super stealthy van that I had in my mind when I started, I knew at least it was going to be comfortable and at least I could make it through that 4 months. Now, this is, you know, months later, okay? So I am a few days short of living in the van for 8 months. My ideas of what makes a stealth van and how to live in a van really are very different from when I started out. My point with this video is that unless we can kind of throw off that fear that we have, because it really is just fear of the unknown. Unless we can find some way to diffuse that fear, all the practical knowledge of how to live in a van really does us no good, because we're always going to have this idea in our head that somebody's watching us. We're going to do something wrong and tip somebody off that we're living in our van. The idea of stealth, to me, 8 months in, has nothing to do with the van. I think it's easier to be stealthy in a white cargo van like I have here, just because I blend in very well. But I don't think that you need to have a white cargo van. I think you can get by perfectly fine in a car if that's what you're comfortable in. Believe it or not, most people don't even notice my van. The few that do pay attention to the van don't even notice the solar panel or the vent fan. That's just a fact that I have come to find out over the last 8 months. Now, there are going to be people that do notice your van and do realize that it is a camper van and that you are living in it. And there's probably not a lot of people are not going to like to hear this, but the few people that are going to know that you're living in your van are police officers. You're never going to fool any police officer. They are going to know. Other van dwellers are going to know. Other RVers are going to know. And that's just because all of those people are tuned into what to look for a vehicle dweller. So you really shouldn't be so concerned about being noticed. You are going to be noticed. If you want to be stealthy, it's really more about how you act and where you park. I will say that. Now, as for the guy that wants to wants to break into my van at night, I have kind of a very different approach to how I think about somebody breaking into my van. And really that comes from just one fact. And that one fact is, if somebody wants to break into your van or your house or whatever, they're going to be able to do it. If they want in, there's nothing you can do to keep them out. Now, of course, I do have an alarm, and I also have a vehicle tracking system, kind of like LoJack on the van. I think it's important to take every precaution that you can. I think it's just smart. So, yeah, I do use my alarm, but, if somebody wants in, they're going to get in and they're going to take what I have. So with that in mind, I started to realize that, look at my situation. I'm in a minivan, right? I don't have room for stuff. And I know I've talked recently about kind of having minimalism kind of thrust upon me, that I'm not a minimalist, but I did have to get rid of most of what I've owned just because I don't have space for it, in here. I gotta have space for me in here to be comfortable. I don't have space for a lot of things. So keeping that in mind, I've given away most of the things that are really of any value. Most of what I keep in the van is clothes and bedding. Now, obviously, there are a few things that are of value if somebody wanted to break in, but the things that I have left that I own don't really have any emotional attachment to me, and so if somebody does steal them, well, yes, it would really suck. you know, it also would be very, easy to replace anything that I did lose. And it wouldn't be that much money to replace it either, relatively speaking. So that's kind of how I handle that aspect of somebody breaking into my van. I still do own a few things of value. I have some tools and a laptop. Those are things that I don't use on a regular basis, so I do store those at a friend's house. So I still do own a few things, but I don't have space for them here, So those are just a few of my thoughts about that. I think really my point here is that we need some way to really disconnect ourselves from the fear. I mean, a little bit of fear is good, right? A little bit of fear keeps us out of danger, always trusting your instinct can really keep you out of trouble. I use instinct and my gut all the time when I park, mostly when I park out of town, out of my regular spot. If a place doesn't feel right for some reason, I don't question it. I just find another place to park. If you think about it that way, living in a van can really kind of be safer in a way. Just because you don't have to park in a bad neighborhood if you don't want to. So whatever way that you choose to try to limit the amount of fear that you feel, is up to you. I'm giving you examples of things that have worked for me, and they work for me because I'm in kind of a strange situation. I'm in a very small van. It's not a safe world out there, but our point of view can really either help us or hurt us in how we want to live. I know it almost kept me from moving into my van. It almost kept me from buying the van in the first place. So I hope it gives you something to think about. And I guess I'll leave it at that. So as always, thanks for taking the time to watch my video. I really do appreciate it.